Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about My Name is Vendetta. My Name is Vendetta is an Italian action crime thriller that tells the story of Franz, aka Santo, a man who lives a quiet life in the mountains with his family consisting of his wife and teenage daughter. Despite his peaceful lifestyle, he hides a secret that threatens to unravel everything that he's worked for. And indeed, his secret is uncovered in the form of being an ex-mafioso, whose identity is revealed to both his daughter and his long-lost enemies. After a deadly attack, Franz and his daughter flee to Milan and hide there while planning revenge against their would-be killers. This might end up being one of the shortest reviews I make on my channel, because to be honest, there's almost nothing remarkable about this movie. It's an okay action thriller to pass some time with, but that's the thing. It's so okay that it's not really worth talking about at length. The main character, Franz, was definitely a compelling one, if not exactly original. He lives by a basic code of survival where it's kill or be killed, which sometimes puts him at odds with his daughter, and it's interesting to see him explore his philosophy as he takes on the mafia. I liked how resourceful he was during the thrill sequences and action scenes. He always stays on his toes and does his best to stay one step ahead of the bad guys. He's believable in the role of a John Wick-like figure who's pissed off after his life of peace is interrupted, and it's a lot of fun to see him carry out his plans. His daughter Sara is the other major character of the story and had her moments, but for the most part I didn't find myself caring about her all that much. She doesn't exactly hurt the story, but she doesn't really help it either. She's more or less just there to do whatever the script tells her to do at any given moment. This wouldn't be so bad if the movie didn't rush her character development so much. For someone who doesn't know how to drive or fight, it was funny to see how quickly she learned and how much her new skills helped her dad. Compared to how much experience Franz is supposed to have, it just doesn't make sense for her to be anywhere near that level of expertise. The relationship between Franz and Sara is nice for a typical father-daughter relationship, but that's about it. They go through all the necessary plot points one would expect, with Sara gradually shifting from being scared to being more understanding and even helpful toward her father's way of life. It is nice to see her come out of her shell more toward the final act, but aside from this and some moving emotional scenes, the relationship didn't grab my attention. Franz spends a fair bit of the movie away from her anyway, so there's not a lot of screen time dedicated to fleshing out their bond in a more meaningful way. The formulaic storyline behind this movie is what makes it so mediocre from the outset. It's another story of a legendary killer on the run from a group who try to kill him, with very little in the way of innovation beyond the involvement of Sara, and it goes through the motions in this regard without much enthusiasm. This lack of energy to the story results in parts of it being lazily executed, such as the mafia being extremely tech-oriented and having lots of bad guys in one scene, only to flip the script another scene later. The inciting incident alone where the mafia is able to identify Franz's exact whereabouts and identity just from his daughter posting a story to Instagram is ridiculous. It feels like it was ripped from a bad episode of CSI. However, I did like where the movie was going in terms of how the mafia's presence was implemented throughout the story. As Franz lays waste to everyone while climbing higher up the chain of command, the Don of the Mafia becomes increasingly more nervous as he tries to protect his assets while also plotting how he will kill Franz. I loved how this sense of progression played out. The audience gets to learn more about Franz as a character through brief moments of dialogue, while also raising the stakes of the story as it moves along. The more Franz kills, the more desperate the Mafia gets, and seeing this level of rage versus panic building did keep me invested to see what would happen next. The movie is at its best when it gets down to business and showcases the action and thrills. It's not quite gory, but the violence is ramped up just enough to enhance the enjoyability of the gunfights and brawls, which become even better thanks to Franz's excellent fight and stunt choreography and how he maneuvers in his environment. Apart from this and the occasional car chase though, the action is fairly routine in presentation. A good chunk of the movie is spent between Franz and Sara either hiding or talking, and often both, so while the action is fun when it does happen, its impact ends up being reduced due to the pacing in between these types of scenes. The movie is able to offset this a little bit with its consistently dark atmosphere. The stylish cinematography of the Milan area helps give an underworld-like vibe, the soundtrack is tense and foreboding, and it even makes use of blue color tones to make the movie's world feel cold and desolate. Even the mountains at the beginning where Franz lives gives this sense of isolation, and all of this is perfectly fitting for his character. He's a man who lives by his own rules and is truly alone in this sense, and it was such a shame to see this movie do so much with this aspect on a technical level, yet not really evolve on it when it came to the story itself. Its themes regarding redemption and death are fine, and it's good to see the movie expand on Franz's philosophy as he has to come to terms with his actions, but it still ends up being the same topic as usual. Even the ending feels uninspired, despite attempting some shock value, and it all just felt like any other action flick I might casually watch on any other weekend. Overall, My Name is Vendetta is a paint-by-numbers action thriller that does an okay job for what it is, but not much more beyond that. If you like action and thriller movies that have a family element to them and you don't mind seeing one that's unoriginal, you might enjoy checking this one out. I try to say as much as I can about any movie I watch, but this one was so mediocre that it ended up being difficult to do. It's fine for killing an hour and a half with, but it's in the same camp as many other thrillers of its kind, so it fails to be memorable in any way. What did you think about this movie? Did you also find it painfully average, or did you find a few more points of merit? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's gonna wrap up my review of My Name is Vendetta. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Norwegian monster movie, Troll. Bye bye!